to...
Good evening and welcome to the 2025 Milton Speaks Candidates Forum. My name is Ms. Katie Mulholland and I will be tonight's introductory host and moderator for the first forum. I'm joined by Ms. Elaine Carroll of the Milton Times and Ms. Penelope Jane, Ms. Catherine Mayo, Ms. Emma Douglas, and Ms. Sydney Burns of the Milton High School debate team. First, some housekeeping. Candidates were contacted through the town's clerk's office as well as MATV for participation in these forums. Candidates were not provided the questions or subject matter before tonight's debate. Tonight's questions will be directed towards all candidates. No individual questions will be asked. Tonight's questions will be asked by members of our press panel. We also solicited questions from the public. If you don't hear your question being asked, it may be a part of another question or a repeat question from another panel member. The format for tonight's forum: each candidate will be allowed a 90-second opening statement. Candidates will then be asked questions by members of the panel. Each candidate will be allowed a 90-second response to each question. The order for the first question will be alphabetical by last name, with the order changing from each subsequent question. There will be a 1-minute closing statement offered to each candidate, for which the order will be chosen randomly. There will be no rebuttals. I will signal when you have 15 seconds remaining to allow you to wrap up your answer. I ask that you finish your thoughts and bring your response to a close at that time. Please also reference the countdown clock on the TV screen in front of you. Tonight's forum will feature the candidates for Parks Commissioner, Board of Health, Housing Authority, and Planning Board. We will begin with our Park Commissioner candidates. Each candidate was asked to submit a brief bio, which I will read. After their bio, the candidate will read their opening statement. We begin with Ms. Cahill. Caroline Cahill is an accomplished leader with a lifelong commitment to her hometown, Milton, a standout athlete at Milton High and Bentley University. She went on to coach collegiate sports for 18 years while building a successful real estate career and actively serving her community. A town meeting member for 15 years. She also served on the warrant committee for 4 years and co-chaired the successful 2020 Community Preservation Act campaign. She is running for Park Commissioner because she sees a real need to improve our fields and facilities for all ages, from youth to seniors, and sees a path forward with CPA funds. Welcome, Ms. Cahill. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you to the Milton High debate team, the Milton Times, and Milton Access TV for hosting this. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Caroline Cahill, and I am running for Park Commissioner. I decided to enter this race for 2 reasons. First, I coach my 3 nieces in Milton youth sports, and I've noticed that our fields and facilities have fallen behind, especially compared to other communities. I want to improve this. The second reason is my dad, who lives with me, and his biggest joy is probably going to watch his grandkids play youth sports, going to their games. That's what he looks forward to all week. I noticed that at a lot of our fields, we lack restrooms, benches, and walking paths for him to get onto those fields. And so I would like our aging parents to feel comfortable going to watch their grandkids, and I think that there's a way that we can make those improvements. I believe our Parks Department is for all. I have over 15 years of experience in town government. 4 of those years serving on the warrant committee, overseeing the Park and Rec budget. And I also co-chaired the CPA campaign, which has given $1.5 million towards open space projects and recreational initiatives. My experience with town government, paired with my passion for athletics, make me a strong candidate for this role. Please consider a vote for Caroline Cahill for Park Commissioner. Thank you.
Next, Ms. Fierbend. Mary's passion for sports and the outdoors began at an early age. Originally hailing from NG, Mary spent her childhood on the athletic fields and parks of her hometown. Her love for sports led to a successful high school basketball career and ultimately an induction into her high school Hall of Fame as part of the team that won the 1995 county championship. Mary moved to Milton in 2009 and immediately fell in love with the town and its residents. She has served in numerous roles throughout her adult life, to include teacher, military spouse, high school track coach, and mom. Mary's passion for Milton can be felt by all who witnessed her on the field supporting Milton youth football and cheer as the organization's president since 2023. She embodies the spirit of what a park and recreation director should be each and every day. Welcome, Ms. Fierbend. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. Thank you to the Milton High School debate team, to Milton High School, and to Milton Access TV. I want to start by asking for your vote for me, Mary Fierbend, as Parks Commissioner on April 29th. I love Milton. My husband and I have lived here since 2009. We moved here before we started our family, and my 3 kids have lived in Milton their entire lives and call Milton home. When they were little, we frequented every park and playground in town, and when I would take them to Kelly Field to run the bases early on the weekends. When my kids started kindergarten at Glover, they all began playing town sports and participated in the rec programs offered. I'm also an avid runner and have run hundreds of miles through Milton, which has allowed me to see it from a different lens, up close and personal. I am a committed volunteer in town and believe that when community partnerships are strong, we all thrive. My experience in youth programming and community engagement begins with my current role as president of Milton Youth Football and Cheer. I have volunteered with youth baseball, and I've been a huge advocate for the turf project at Lower Guile Field. I would be serving as an advocate to you, the community, and our great Parks and Rec department in the role of Parks Commissioner. Thank you.
And now to begin the forum. We will start first with a question from Ms. Mayo and will be asked first to Ms. Cahill.
How do you plan to incorporate public feedback into decision-making processes for park improvements?
That's a great question. So I think it's important that we as a community work together with our neighbors, especially when we're making changes to any neighborhood. For anyone that's lived in Milton, you understand that a change to a neighborhood is a big deal. And so having community engagement is a priority of mine. I support the master plan, which is going to be used to help get a better sense of the condition of our fields and how they can be better used. That is going to require community input, and that's going to require us meeting together to solve issues that will come about. I think our communication within the town can always be improved as a community, and I think that we need to work together so that we can achieve the goals we want to achieve.
Okay, and now the next question, the same question to Ms. Feuerbend. Yeah.
Are you going to repeat the question?
How do you plan to incorporate public feedback into decision-making processes for park improvements?
Thank you. Seeking input from all stakeholders is very important, and I know that firsthand in my role as serving as president of Milton Youth Football and Cheer. Our organization serves over 400 youth athletes in our town, and there are many, many families involved, as well as partnerships that are part of that. And so hearing feedback is very important, and it really requires building strong relationships that impact everybody. And that is something I feel I'm very strong at. I work very hard to work with all of our families and the town of Milton to make sure that we are improving and meeting the needs of all of those we serve. I do feel that one of my strengths is building relationship, because I do believe relationship is at the heart of mission. And it is through that conversation and partnership with everyone involved that hearing what they have to say, making sure that their needs are met, is very important to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next question will be from Ms. Douglas and will be asked first to Ms. Feuerbend.
Many students, teachers, or parents have concerns about Gill Field and its turf. Just last Monday, the boys' baseball game had to be moved out of town due to the field being unsuitable for rain. How do you plan to improve our town sports areas? Specifically, how would you support installing artificial turf at Gill Field?
I 100% support installing turf at Lower Guile Field. I have been a huge advocate for that project, speaking publicly in support of it since 2023. I've attended every single conservation committee and spoke at them, including while I was on a trip in Cooperstown. And I did speak publicly at town meeting last year in support of it. I know that if anyone saw the weather this past weekend, there were so many games and practices that were canceled, and that impacted so many youth athletes. Additionally, we have our high school athletes that also play outside. When our kids don't get a chance to go outside and move, they lose the opportunity to build those relationships and learn competition, which is exactly what sports offers all of us. And then our parents and our organizations have to drive to turf fields in other towns, which requires time and most likely money to those youth organizations. So it is a financial gain for our town, and it is primarily a safety issue and a sustainability issue that we get turf at Lower Guile Field. It is for the future of our children, who are the future of Milton. Thank you.
Now, Ms. Cahill.
Oh, yes. How many students, teachers, or parents have concerns about Guile Field and its turf? Just last Monday, the boys' baseball game had to be moved out of town due to the fields being unsuitable for rain. How do you plan on improving our town's sports areas? Specifically, would you support installing turf at Guile Field?
I too fully support installing artificial turf on Lower Guile Field. When this project was first presented to town meeting back in 2020, I was a yes vote. I've never wavered from that, and I have always been a supporter of the artificial turf field. That Lower Guile Field has a severe drainage issue, and so turf is the best solution. That field is barely able to be used, and to be honest, should not be used because of its condition. I think the bigger issue in Milton, along with that, is all of our fields have improper drainage. We have to improve our grass fields, along with seeing the turf field project go through. That is why my goal is to use community preservation funding to help with those repairs. Those funds are able to be used towards open space and recreation. Those are the two areas that we need the most support for our fields. And I believe that is the best path forward, and I believe we will be able to fix all of our grass fields and support the Lower Guile turf fields.
Okay. The next question will be from Ms. Carroll, and will be asked first to Ms. Cahill.
How can Parks and Recreation grow their programs on a limited budget and collaborate better with other departments and users, including Milton Youth Sports Leagues?
I think that's a great question, Elaine. So, in talking with many of the youth coaches here in Milton, along with our high school coaches, there is a disconnect in communication. Milton does not have enough resources. We do not have enough funding for both parties to be able to have everything that they want. There's a way for us to help our athletic teams and our youth programs by working together. My goal is that we bring back together the youth coaches or youth sports programs directors to meet along with our athletic coaches so that we can have those conversations. A great example of the lack of communication is when park benches wanted to be installed at Turner's Pond. Council on Aging would have loved to have been part of that conversation. And so when we only work in a silo, we are not working together as a community, we are not working efficiently, and I believe that there's a better path forward.
Now, Ms. Fierabend.
And would you repeat? Yeah,
Sure.
do you mind? Thank you.
Sure. How can Parks and Recreation grow their programs on a limited budget and collaborate better with other departments and users, including Milton Youth Sports Leagues?
Thank you. I do think there's an opportunity to explore third-party organizations that could potentially offer programming to a wider variety of community members. I think if we were to explore those and reach to offer programming to some of our non-youth athletes, I think that would make a lot of sense and be able to provide opportunity to more children in town. I know that exists in other park and rec departments here within the Commonwealth, and that is something that I would absolutely explore. I do think conversation is really important, and doing the hard work on the ground, asking the questions, making the phone calls, going out, asking the different groups, and hearing what those needs are versus just choosing what we think they are is the way to get to those solutions so that we can offer Milton, more of Milton, all of Milton, the programming that our members need. Thank you.
The final question will be from Ms. Jane. It will be first asked to Ms. Cahill.
How do you plan to balance environmental conservation with recreational development in our parks?
That's a great question. So we're very lucky that Milton has a conservation committee that serves our town, and so I think we need to work together. Once again, you're going to hear this a lot, is we have to work together across our boards and committees here in this town. It cannot be just one committee makes all the decisions. We have to be willing to listen to everybody and hear those thoughts. Milton is lucky. We also have Sustainable Milton here in town. They have some great initiatives that they are trying to improve upon. They reached out to me, and I gladly told them that I think that they should be part of this master plan that I hope will pass at town meeting this May, which will allow us to evaluate all of our fields and facilities and make improvements necessary. And if Sustainable Milton, our Milton Conservation, can be part of that conversation, that's how we achieve the best outcome.
Okay, now Ms. Fearban.
Do you mind? Thank you.
Yeah. How do you plan to balance environmental conservation with recreational development in our parks?
Thank you. I also agree. We are very fortunate that we have a conservation committee here in Milton. And I do trust their decision making. It is a talented group of people. We did work very closely with them on getting the permit for our Lower Guile turf field. And I do trust their judgment. And I think it really speaks to having those relationships. My experience reaching across different communities within Milton is derived from my work as serving in president for Milton Youth Foot Volunteer, working with other presidents of other youth organizations and partnering with them on a variety of issues. So I have that experience to cross the aisle and ask the questions and partner together with youth organizations, conservation committee, and our town to make sure that the decisions we make not only just serve today, but are well thought out for the future. And we're also considering modernization of Milton as well. It's very important that we care deeply about our conservation, but that we are also making sure that sustainability and safety, so that rainouts don't impact our organizations, is really critical. Thank you.
Okay. That concludes our Park Commissioners Forum. We will now hear closing statements from the candidates chosen at random. The order will be Ms. Fearban, then Ms. Cahill.
Thank you. I'm running for Parks Commissioner because I have a fundamental understanding of what a Parks Commissioner does. I live the mission of what it means to be a committed volunteer. My dedication extends to both the Milton community and to the modernization of our fields. I just want to say, too, that we had our kickoff for our flag football just yesterday, and it was horrible rainy weather. And while every other youth organization here in town was canceled, their practices and games, ours was not, because we played on a turf field. And we were so fortunate for that opportunity, because all those little kids out there yesterday got their jerseys and their flags and met their coaches, and they were moving, and that was awesome. So I'm asking for your vote, Milton, on April 29th for Mary Fearban as Milton's Park Commissioner. Thank you.
Now, Ms. Cahill, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. So the reality is our Park and Rec budget is small. They do so much with so little funding. We lack fields and facilities for the programming that is out there. I have ideas on how we can collaborate with Curry College and Milton Academy to help solve some of these issues. I'm motivated to improve our fields and facilities for all of our residents, and I believe CPA funding is the best way to accomplish this. Having co-chaired that campaign, I have a very broad knowledge of how we can use those funds. My experience working with others and being involved with numerous boards and committees gives me the skill set to see these projects happen. My experience with town government really helps me move projects forward. Please consider a vote for Carolyn Cahill, Park Commissioner.
Thank you to our candidates. Please give us a moment while we set up for a Board of Health forum.
Welcome to our Board of Health candidates. Ms. Stenson is unable to attend this evening and has sent in a statement that we will read on her behalf. Good evening, respective voters. I have a family commitment this evening, therefore please accept these heartfelt words. My name is Mary Stenson, and I have proudly served on the Milton Board of Health since 2017, providing guidance to the Health Department. The Board of Health plays a vital role in connecting public health services to the community, and I have greatly valued my time in this position. I have worked with the board effectively, and the town benefits from my volunteerism. I believe that health is the wealth of our community, and our well-being is crucial for everyone on every level in our community. As board members, we are responsible for ensuring that the health needs of our community are met. I am seeking re-election to continue serving and contributing to the well-being of our town. To help voters better understand the important work we do on the Board of Health, I've outlined some of our key responsibilities. First is monitor community health status to identify health problems. Investigate and address health hazards in the community. Educate and empower the public about health issues. Build community partnerships to solve health problems. Develop policies and plans to support individual and community health efforts. Enforce laws and regulations that protect health and safety. Connect people to necessary health services when they are unavailable. Ensure a competent public health and healthcare workforce. Evaluate the effectiveness, accessibility, and quality of health services. As board members, we have varying authorities to carry out these responsibilities. We enact rules and regulations, provide recommendations to the local governing body, and make policy decisions that prioritize public health. We also play a key role in setting the Public Health Department's annual budget, monitoring goals, and ensuring adequate funding for essential health services. While the department directly provides these services, the board offers oversight to ensure the best outcomes for the community. These are issues that I deeply care about. As a registered nurse, I bring the knowledge and experience necessary to continue in this role on the Board of Health. I am not a politician. I am a dedicated volunteer who enjoys serving my town. This may be the first time you voted for a non-politician, but I believe that's what makes me uniquely qualified for this position. Thank you for your time and consideration. I respectfully ask for your vote on April 29th. Sincerely, Mary Stenson. Next, we have Miss Deborah Milbauer. I will now read her bio. Deborah Milbauer is a proud Milton resident for 23 years and lives with her husband, Corey Dolgan, and their two daughters, Bailey, a senior at Fordham University, and Ruby, a senior at Milton High School. Deborah has over 30 years of experience in training and in public community health. She has created and led programs focused on behavioral health, homelessness, HIV, and overdose prevention, all of which have expanded access to community health resources and built long-lasting community partnerships. She teaches public health at Northeastern University and has served as an expert consultant for multiple community coalitions across the state, funded by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. Deborah earned 2 master's degrees at Boston University, a master's in public health and a master's in social work. She holds a certification in public health by the National Board of Public Health Examiners. Deborah has a strong record of community service as a town meeting member in Precinct 4 for 15 years. She is a longtime collaborator with the Milton Health Department and currently serves as a board member of the Milton Coalition and the Partnership for a Healthy Milton. She is the lead organizer for the Pine Tree Brook Neighborhood Association, where she recently authored a successful community preservation grant for ecological restoration. Deborah is ready to roll up her sleeves and continue advocating for a healthier, safer, and more vibrant Milton. Welcome, Ms. Milbauer. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you to Milton Access TV, the students of the high school debate team, and to the Milton Times for hosting this forum. I am an exceptionally qualified and experienced candidate with 20 years of service to the town of Milton and my neighborhood, and 3 decades of professional public health experience. I am running for the Board of Health to bring my expertise and deep commitment to public health to the Milton community. I believe that health and wellness should be at the center of decision making to ensure the best quality of life for all residents. Many people are not familiar with the Board of Health. The board's decisions have enormous impact on people's lives, but they fly under the radar. In an ideal world, the Board of Health should be highly visible, actively communicating with the public, and engaging the community in health promotion and disease prevention. It should be listening educating and leading conversations about the health issues that matter to residents. I am a community organizer at heart, and I'm running to engage Milton residents with decisions that impact their lives. I know how to build partnerships and bring people into the decisions that impact them personally. I know how to be inclusive and reaching out to boards and groups across town and to neighborhoods and communities that are typically not invited to the table. I've been doing it in Milton for 2 decades. I've been doing it in communities throughout Massachusetts for 30 years, and I will do it on the Board of Health.
And now a few questions for Ms. Milbauer. We will begin with a question from Ms. Mulhall.
Ms. Milbauer, in your experience, what strategies have you found most effective for educating community members about public health initiatives? Can you provide specific examples of how you would implement these strategies in our community?
Thank you. So I believe that public health should be at the table when key decisions are made. And here are my priorities around the things that I do want to do in the community. I will advocate for the responsible use of Milton's opioid settlement funds. I've worked for over a decade with communities across Massachusetts on substance use prevention and recovery supports, and I know how to put those dollars to work. I will work to ensure the Community Health Improvement Plan, for which I sat on the advisory board, is now underway. I'll make sure it's responsive to identified community needs. As an advisor to community coalitions, I've helped cities and towns develop new health and wellness programming that matches their needs. An important finding that came out recently from a completed health assessment was a variety of needs among our seniors. That's another example of something I look forward to working on. Importantly, I will support the mission of the Milton Coalition to promote youth mental health and address substance use. I helped launch the Milton Coalition over 10 years ago, and now I sit on the board. I'm deeply invested in the work because all the youth of Milton matter, because my own child goes to the Milton Public Schools, and because my professional work has been centered on substance use and mental health and wellness prevention, and that is just some of the priorities that I have to work on when I win the Board of Health. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be from Ms. Burns.
Ms. Milbauer, what is your vision of how the Board of Health should serve the town? What are some things that it should be doing, and what are some things that it shouldn't be doing or which needs to be done better?
That's a good question. So I think that the board has a wonderful opportunity right now. There was a health assessment that I mentioned that was just completed, and right now the town is beginning the planning process of figuring out what programs and initiatives that we want to do. I think that's a brilliant opportunity. I think that the board, I would bring to the table the concept of health equity. So there are different groups in town that have different health outcomes. So youth and older adults specifically have special needs that need to be addressed. And I want to make sure that the planning process is inclusive, community informed, and rooted in evidence. Equity means listening to all voices. And as a public health professional, I bring that skill to the table. I also want to bring environmental health and climate change issues to the Board of Health. Actually, we have an appointed board that is working on climate change. Sustainable Milton works on climate change. And there's a lot of public health environmental issues, like for example, some parts of town actually don't have tree cover in the way that they should, which raise property values and is good for the environment. So there's a lot of issues that I would bring to the board that isn't necessarily of focus currently.
Thank you. The final question will be from Ms. Carroll.
Can you please explain the new tobacco regulations that are currently before the board?
Yes, that's a good question. So the tobacco regulations are currently being revised by the Board of Health. They've been working on it for several months. It's still in process. And most people haven't heard of it or don't know that they're working on those revisions, which actually impact folks. Some of the things they're working on is updating, bringing the tobacco regs up to speed with modern practice. And so for example, updating the consequences and penalties at the retail convenience stores, revisiting where you're allowed and not allowed to smoke indoors and outdoors, and that sort of thing. And it's, yeah.
Okay. That concludes our forum. We will now hear a closing statement from Ms. Milbauer.
Public health first captured my imagination when I landed in my first job after college at the Pine Street Inn, serving the guests, as we called them, struggling with substance use, mental health, and homelessness. It changed my life. And I've been working to improve people's lives ever since. For me, public health is value-driven work. It's about making sure everyone in our community has the opportunity to live in safe and healthy communities. To quote the National Association of Local Boards of Health, they explain that the leadership role of boards of health make them an essential link between public health services and a healthy community. I am committed to using my passion to bring energy, transparency, and a deep belief that public health must be visible, accessible, and accountable to the people it serves. I appreciate everyone here tonight whose civic engagement brings them out to hear about all the ways to improve Milton. And I'm committed to making Milton a healthy and vibrant community, and I ask for your vote on April 29th. Thank you.
Thank you to our candidates, and please give us a moment while we set up for our Housing Authority Forum.
Welcome to our Housing Authority candidates. We will begin with Mr. Kelly. James Kelly is a lifelong resident of Milton, where he resides with his wife, Angeline, a school teacher, and two daughters, Nora and Bella. James grew up on Gilver Street in Milton, attending Glover Elementary School and Pierce Middle School. He moved to Church Place in Milton, where he lived for 17 years and was married at St. Mary's Church. He received his undergrad degree from Boston College in Corporate Systems Accounting, a degree from Massachusetts School of Law, and has extensive experience in housing development, public policy, and construction, and employment law. He is the treasurer and board member of Massachusetts Fallen Heroes, the official memorial of the Commonwealth for soldiers killed since the terrorist attack on September 11th. As a lawyer and lifelong Milton resident, James Kelly has the expertise and experience that makes him an ideal candidate for the Housing Authority Board. He is excited about the opportunity to work and cooperate with community members to ensure that local needs and priorities are ensured. His goal is to find solutions that benefit Milton, and he is committed to being a strong voice for local residents. Welcome, Mr. Kelly. You may now read your opening statement.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Milton Access TV, Milton High School debate team, and the Milton Times. Not many people know about the Housing Authority. It's unique, and I'd say it's apolitical, which is probably a good thing, and it doesn't really affect which side you're on or who you're going for or against. It's more cut and paste in what the law is, and under Chapter 121B, there's a certain amount of housing that we have, and in this case, we have 62 units, a lot of which are on Miller Ave, and there are, people that live there, and there are certain income, there's certain revenues that come in, but it doesn't affect the regular citizens of Milton. It's like a set-aside department that deals with housing and community development. I look to get the board or get the Housing Authority in compliance, as we haven't been in compliance for a couple of years yet. Oversight of the executive director, board engagement to bring in some additional funds, and then I look to seek additional funding to generate projects that actually help the town, as opposed to be a detriment. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Our next Housing Authority candidate is Mr. Morong. Matt Morong is a proud father of a Glover second grader, husband, and Milton resident. He is a precinct 2 town meeting member, a member of the trustees of the Affordable Housing Trust, and a member of the School Financial Advisory Committee. Professionally, he is an architect with over 20 years of experience, leading teams around North America in the design of stations, facilities, and bridges for transport, rail, and transit projects. Welcome, Mr. Morong. You may now read your opening statements.
All right, thank you. Thank you to the Milton High School debate team and the Milton Times for hosting the forum, and thank you to Milton Access TV for putting it on the air. Throughout my architecture career, I've focused on projects that expand access and increase equity. These have ranged from complex infrastructure projects that provide accessibility to transit to the creation of affordable communities that expand home ownership. I have an understanding of construction, maintenance, management, and the deployment of successful teams. At the beginning of my career, I was the treasurer of a cooperative low-income housing provider. As a board member, I performed the activities that closely parallel the Milton Housing Authorities, including overseeing staff, creating and maintaining budgets, maintaining properties, and serving as a resource for residents. I am proud of what the Milton Housing Authority does, and I have the ambition to strengthen and expand it. I want Milton to stand out as an exemplary suburban housing authority and assure that it is a great neighbor within Milton. I also want to expand the Housing Authority's offerings where, under the right circumstances, it can purchase or develop properties within our town. I believe that Milton is a great town for all, and I want it to be available to a wider range of citizens. Finally, I'm driven by a commitment to service. I want to assure that, first and foremost, that Milton Housing Authority is doing a good job for its residents. I believe that this is the most fundamental role, providing quality shelter for those who need it, and all of the benefits that come from the security of being housed. I want to be approachable by the people that the Housing Authority serves to assure that they are treated with the fairness and dignity that we all deserve as neighbors in Milton. Thank you.
And now, to begin the forum, we will begin with a question from Ms. Carroll, asked first to Mr. Kelly.
What is the primary role of a Housing Authority member?
The primary role of the Housing Authority member is to oversee the executive director of the Housing Authority. In this case, it's Mr. Earl Fay. Also to help balance budgets, work with the other board members to, again, balance budget, go over meetings. There's a lot that, quite frankly, most wouldn't understand. A board can actually be involved with the Housing Authority and actually get funding through different programs, whether it be the home program or capital program. So the board not only oversees and it should oversee the executive director and the actions, the financial activities, but it should actually be engaged in the process with the executive director to go to the State House, to lobby with or engage with local representatives, congressmen. I mean, money comes from the state. This isn't funded from just regular tax dollars. Money comes from the state, and it comes from housing and urban development. Those relationships are important. We've had some strenuous relationships between Milton and the state, the federal government for some time, and I'm looking to change that.
Now the same question to Mr. Morong.
Okay. My hope is to build out off of what James said. A lot of the role of this board is basically oversight, right? And making sure that the authority runs as it should, that it's staying on budget, that its staff is working as it should, that facilities are managed, and so on and so forth. And as James mentioned as well, my real hope here is to some extent, increase the footprint of this authority. I think that there's more that we can do. We have a handful of units within the town, but as it goes, it's relatively small. And we all know that there are so many benefits to living in Milton. It's my hope to expand that, right? That all of the benefits of being a citizen of Milton, its schools, community resources, like I love the recreational resources, for instance, that we just talked about with the Parks Commission. Those, making those available to people who otherwise could not be able to afford to live here, I think would be a great thing to do. So for every little bit that we can expand it, I think it would be fantastic. So seeking out those sources of funding, seeking out grants, and so on and so forth would be my hope for the board.
Our next question will be from Mrs. Mayo and will be asked first to Mr. Morong.
What role do you think zoning reform should play in addressing the affordable housing shortage?
Zoning will play an important role. It's interesting that the Housing Authority doesn't have direct control over zoning, but it will be impacted by zoning. Where we're allowed to build, how much we're allowed to build, and how we're allowed to build is all governed by zoning. And the certainty that comes with that will give the Housing Authority an opportunity to understand how it can expand. I think that if expansion were to happen within the Housing Authority, it's my hope that it can be done in a manner that really kind of knits within the fabric of Milton that's already there, so that you wouldn't necessarily even know, we're not talking about big housing projects or anything like that. We're talking about providing people with housing on the scale that's here, and zoning sets that. It also has a huge impact on costs, right? We know that it's extremely expensive to build in this town. And so if zoning relief were given, it could be less expensive for the Housing Authority to meet those goals and to achieve what I'm talking about. So that will have a huge impact on what the Housing Authority does, and I look forward to seeing what comes of it.
Same question to you, Mr. Kelly.
Do you mind saying the question again?
What role do you think zoning reform should play in addressing the affordable housing shortage?
So in regards to the Housing Authority or in general?
The Housing Authority.
As to the Housing Authority. So as to the Housing Authority, zoning reform actually doesn't address anything. The Housing Authority is under different rules and regulations than a general developer. So you can actually expand the Housing Authority and the footprint of the Housing Authority without zoning reform. It's just engagement of the board. It's getting the Housing Authority up to the place of actually being a respectable entity and being able to be relied upon by the state and the federal government. Everything we get from the state and federal government is based on our, I guess you'd say, reports and how we do. You grade it. So we're not graded very well. That would be number one for me, is correcting that so that you have some respect, you actually have some credibility. Then you go back and you show them you can do the job, and now you can expand the footprint. I mean, I right now, based on the way things are, I wouldn't give the Housing Authority $1. It's going to be thrown down the drain. You want to expand it, you have to, you have to make it a better product. You have to actually have accountability and be able to show where those dollars go. And I agree with Matt that it can be expanded, but first you have to actually look at the accountability parts of it. Again, like I said, we're not going to get bonding for that. I don't think any agency is going to bond us for that.
Thank you. The next question will be from Mrs. Mahal and will be asked to Mr. Kelly first.
Mr. Kelly, how would you improve the administration of Section 8 vouchers to ensure families can find suitable housing?
It's an interesting question, because right now the Housing Authority doesn't have someone that does that. So there's actually a position open at the Housing Authority for someone that just deals with the Housing Authority vouchers and the Section 8 vouchers. So she actually just retired. She took early retirement very recently, so now they actually have to fulfill that role. They have to find someone. I spoke to the executive director, and they're looking for someone. So first and foremost is you actually have to have someone to do the job. If you look back in some of the annual reports from the state, there was a lack of oversight in the receipts and whatnot of rents. Now that there, is an opening for a Section 8, the voucher secretary essentially just hiring the right person, make sure that Mr. Fay has the resources to do that and put them to work.
Now this question goes to Mr. Morong.
Yeah, I think that what James has said, Mr. Kelly, has said is spot on. I also think, getting back to the previous question about zoning and housing costs, Section 8, for those who aren't familiar with it, is a voucher program where people are able to get subsidized by the government and go out on basically the open market, right, and look for rentals within the town. And so when we have a town rental market that is so expensive, it makes it hard to achieve that. Right, you get less for your money. So it would be my hope that that would be one way as we come to some sort of resolution with the planning board as far as zoning and as far as multifamily housing. I'm hoping that the market will improve and that we can get more for those vouchers.
The final question will be from Mrs. Burns and will be asked first to Mr. Morong.
Mr. Morong, what measures would you implement to ensure the long-term affordability and quality of low-income housing units?
What measures would I implement? I think that, so long-term affordability, I think that looking into really the goal of homeownership is ultimately something that we can work for as a community and, looking toward the opportunities that gives. I think that there are huge advantages to getting out of the rental market and moving people into kind of stable ownership positions. And so I think that's something that I would hope that the town would be able to expand on. It isn't necessarily the direct purview of the Housing Authority, but I do think that there are opportunities for it to develop and to have a big role in that process. And so that's something that I would like to see, moving, giving people an opportunity to build equity, build generational wealth, and so on and so forth. That's ultimately the goal here, is to break the cycle of poverty, to get people to be to use housing as a means toward a better life for themselves and their families.
Your answer, Mr. Kelly?
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating the question?
Yes, of course, sorry. What measures would you implement or support, I suppose, to ensure long-term affordability and quality of low-income housing units?
So, in regards to the Housing Authority, I'm assuming you're asking.
Yes,
right?
more so, I suppose, with the quality of low-income housing units, as I
Absolutely.
know that's what the Housing Authority focuses on.
So currently we have, I believe, 62 units of affordable housing, 39 at Miller Ave. The quality part of it, and you can look at Mr. Fay's reports, it's having funding. In order to get funding, you have to make sure your books are in order. You have to make sure that there's accountability. I know that there are some issues because of COVID that they're working out, but my priorities and how to address that would be and will be, and how I anticipate you as a voter, if you can vote, can, I guess, size me up as by this time next year, if the Housing Authority is in compliance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 121B. That'd be one. Oversight of the executive director and being a partner with the executive director. I know Robbie Powers is a young guy that is now on the board, and he's been doing good things. Working with him and, again, the executive director and the other board members to, kind of work in the same direction, as opposed to just going to meetings and passing the agenda.
Thank you.
That concludes our moderator forum, and we will now hear closing statements from the candidates chosen at random. The order will be Mr. Morong, then Mr. Kelly. Mr. Morong, you may begin.
Thank you. Despite all the controversial issues around housing that our town faces, I am grateful that one issue that seems to unite Milton is the need for more affordable housing. The residents of Milton know that this is a great place to live with many benefits: proximity to Boston, top-notch schools, neighborliness, opportunities for recreation, and safety. These benefits can have an enormous impact on people struggling to obtain housing security. If elected, I will bring my experience, ambition, energy, and compassion to the Housing Authority to optimize its operations and expand its reach within the town. I humbly ask for your vote when you go to the polls on April 29th. Thank you.
And Mr. Kelly, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. I wanted to get involved in something that I could actually make a difference in town politics, and this came up, and I was actually excited. I don't see it as a political job, but more as something that I can use my strengths to help the town with. I, quite frankly, would like to have the opportunity to try to get the housing authority in compliance. I'd like to get to the point where it's a decent entity that is working with the state as opposed to against the state and the federal government. And I'd like to be able to, like Matt said, be able to expand, if it's possible, be able to expand appropriately and within, appropriate budget-wise if the funding's there.
That concludes our Housing Authority Forum. Please give us a moment while we set up our final forum of the evening, the Planning Board.
Welcome to our Planning Board candidates. We will begin with their bios. First, Mr. Sean Fahey. Sean has lived in Milton for over 50 years and raised 4 children, Michael, Megan, Kate, and Kira here. He's a graduate of Providence College, Xaverian Brothers High School, and St. Agatha's School. He has been a town meeting member for 12 years in Precinct 9. He is also a chair of the Board of Trustees at Xaverian Brothers High School. Sean has spent a 39-year career working in commercial construction management, where he often solves complex problems related to development and construction requirements. He believes his extensive background in construction management and the essential attributes needed to succeed in this industry have positioned him to serve well as a planning board member. He is also committed to maintaining the character of Milton while also being open-minded to the changes we must implement. Welcome, Mr. Fahey. You may read your opening statement.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me tonight. Thank you to the students of the debate team and to Milton Access Television. I'm a proponent of responsible planning. I believe transparency is a responsibility we all have serving in the roles that we serve with town government. I believe in approaching all situations in a professional and a respectful manner. My goal in all situations is to find the most practical solutions to any planning issue. I recognize there are often extremes in terms of opinions of desired outcomes. The most sensible solution is often the one that meets both extremes in an area that is between the extremes. And as a business leader, I always will recognize the importance of evaluating cost and factoring financial impact as part of the decisions. I have served now for 3 years on the planning board in Milton. The residents of the town have had an opportunity to experience my approach in terms of a planning board member. If I am reelected, I am committed to serving the next term in the same manner that I have served the current term that I am in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Oldfield. Maggie Oldfield is deeply rooted in the community through her personal, professional, and civic contributions. She's a lifelong resident of Milton. Her roles include being a wife to Phil Lang, a self-employed carpenter, a mom to Chandler, a 5th grade French teacher, and George, a senior at Mass Maritime. And along with her brother, she's the local business owner of Thayer Nursery. Through the years, Maggie has been active in the town by being involved with the Cunningham PTO, with Milton High School Boosters, a town meeting member representing Precincts 9 and now 5, a member of the Climate Action Planning Committee, and a member of the Planning Board. Because of all of these roles, Maggie has developed a deep understanding of the balance between economic development and environmental sustainability. Her experience managing a local business has provided her with firsthand insight into the importance of thoughtful land use, community engagement, and preserving the character of Milton's neighborhoods. This perspective enables her to make planning decisions that prioritize the long-term well-being of the community while fostering responsible growth and development. Welcome, Ms. Oldfield. You may read your opening statement.
Thank you all for having us tonight. As mentioned, my name is Maggie Oldfield, and I'm running for re-election to the Planning Board, as well as re-election to town meeting for Precinct 5. With my deep Milton roots, I offer an important perspective. In addition to being a parent and a homeowner, I'm also a local business owner of Thayer Nursery. With 2025 marking our 60th anniversary in business. When it comes to making decisions about town and space planning, it's essential to be thoughtful and maintain a long-term view. I understand the importance of the zoning process, and it should be easy to understand, and it should be collaborative. I support local businesses, and I want to help them remain a vital part of their neighborhoods and in town. I support preserving our green spaces, including conservation lands, recreational parks, and tree-lined streets. Once these spaces are gone, they'll never return. I support affordable housing opportunities. With the input of our residents, we can minimize the impact of large, dense projects in our neighborhoods. And I support maintaining and preserving town-owned assets and properties, and support the purchasing of new properties. We need to plan for our future residents and their municipal needs. Milton is close proximity to Boston, yet offers a small town community feel with the Blue Hills right in our backyard. And I would like the opportunity to make sure that our unique character remains for the next generation who wish to call Milton home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oldfield. Next, Mr. Munger. Hal Munger is a proud Milton resident and the father of 3 young boys. A fourth-generation architect, Hal brings nearly 20 years of experience in areas such as historic preservation, master planning, and navigating projects from early entitlement through construction. A graduate of the University of Notre Dame with a bachelor's degree in architecture, Hal is well equipped to offer practical and creative solutions to Milton's planning challenges. Throughout his career, Hal has demonstrated leadership, serving as president of the Notre Dame Alumni Club of Boston and vice president of properties for the Spirit of Adventure Scout Council. He has also been recognized as one of the Engineering News Record top young professionals in New England for his commitment to professional volunteering and mentoring. In Eagle Scout, Hal is a dedicated community member committed to creating a better future with his neighbors. Hal and his wife Jacqueline chose Milton for its vibrant neighborhoods, proximity to Boston, and exceptional schools. Their 3 children are at the heart of their life in this wonderful community and attend Milton Public Schools. Hal actively contributes to Milton's development by coaching his sons in basketball and flag football, and provides graphic design and marketing support to the Milton Foundation for Education. Welcome, Mr. Munger. You may read your opening statement.
Hello all. I'm honored to be here and discuss important topics related to the Planning Board. Over the course of this event, I hope that you will take away 4 main points of my campaign. Number 1, being an architect, I bring relevant experience focused on historic preservation as well as master planning. I believe in broad public engagement to rebuild trust in all areas of Milton. I believe in our permitting process needs to be streamlined in order to support small businesses, and we need to be proactive leaders with a vision for the future rather than always being reactive. 4 years ago, my wife and I chose to move to Milton, yes, for the schools, but also for the diversity and the vibrant neighborhoods. While I agree that being a lifelong resident is a qualification, we cannot let it be a requirement for office. I imagine many of you watching tonight would agree that an equal accreditation is to bring new ideas and fresh, creative approach to challenges we face in town. So in order to contrast my message with the 2 incumbents, I referenced the latest suburban shopper that maybe many of you have received recently in the mail. On the front, Mr. Fahey states that he will, quote, ensure that balance is achieved to create positive result with limited risk, end quote. When I hear balance, I think of meeting in the middle and being open to compromise. As for limited risk, because of the decisions made by this board, the town has been sued by the state and lost, and as a result has spent or lost out on almost $1 million of funds. Additionally, the town is ineligible for up to $1 billion of grants. That does not sound limited to me. On the back, Ms. Oldfield states the change is inevitable and she would, quote, like the opportunity to be part of the growth, end quote. That also sounds nice. However, at the planning board's last meeting on April 10th, she stated that if it was up to her, there would be no density anywhere in town. At a time where we have $20 million of deferred road maintenance, I believe that the town needs more funding for basic needs, and one way to achieve that is by promoting a measured increase to our town's tax base. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final candidate, Mr. Cohane. Dennis Cohane has been a resident of Milton for 31 years and raised 3 daughters with his wife, Mary. He is the founder and president of the Cohane Company Limited, a professional planning and real estate development company for 35 years. Mr. Cohane is also a current town meeting member, former member of the school committee and the select board. Currently, he is a member of the Board of Advisors to the Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital, an avid golfer, cyclist, and martial artist. Welcome, Mr. Cohane. You may read your opening statement.
Thank you. My name is Dennis Cohane. I can't say this enough, but I can't believe I came to this great country in 1988 at the age of 21 with $1,000 and a dream. In 1989, I started the Cohane Company on a shoestring budget, and 35 years later, we have over 1,300 real estate transactions dealing with planning boards and zoning boards all over the Commonwealth. In 1990, I married my wife, Mary, and in 1994, we moved to Milton, 31 years ago, where we had our 3 daughters, and they were born and raised in this town, went to the Milton Public Schools. We immersed ourselves in the Milton community over the years. I coached many soccer teams for years, and they were the ones who got the medals, but I think I should have got the medals for dealing with all these girls over the years. We became MFE members of the Foundation for Education, and still are benefactors for that board. While raising our family and building a business, I went to university at night for 5 years and graduated at the age of 42 with a Bachelor of Science degree. Then I became a town meeting member, ran for the school committee successfully. Then I ran for the select board successfully, and became an advisor to one of the most important companies, if you will, in our town, the hospital. My goal now is to bring all of this experience that I have attained over the years to the planning board.
Thank you, Mr. Cohane. And now to begin the forum. We will start first with a question from Ms. Jane, and will be asked first to Mr. Fahey.
What is your vision of how the planning boards should serve the town? What is it currently doing that it should, or what is it currently not doing that it should be doing? And what is it currently doing that it shouldn't be doing, or which needs to be done better?
The responsibility of the planning board in terms of serving the town is to address and develop resolution for some of the critical planning issues that come before us. Currently, right now, we're dealing with the MBTA Communities Act, and it's probably the most sensitive issue throughout the town. Our responsibilities vary from very simple matters to some very complex matters. The MBTA Communities Act is a very complex matter, but there are some very simple land matters and planning board matters that come before the board. I honestly don't think there are things that we're not doing as a planning board, but certainly if you watch the planning board meetings, you can see the challenges that we're facing. I have a ton of respect for all of the members of the planning board and for their perspective and for their talents and their skills. To say that we're not doing something we should be doing would be to criticize the other members of the board, and I won't do that. So I feel that we have our hands full, quite honestly, with really difficult and challenging issues, and our responsibility is to serve the interests of the entire town of Milton, and we have very significantly varying points of view throughout the town on some of the most significant issues that we have, finding a balance so that we can meet the interest of the residents of the town. And as I said in my opening statement, not to honor one extreme or the other extreme, but to find compromise is the responsibility of the planning board.
Thank you, Mr. Fahey. Just a reminder to all candidates, we forgot to outline this in the beginning. There is your timer for your speeches, so if you go over time, please just wrap up your thoughts quickly. Now, next, that question will be asked by Mr. Cohane. Ms. Jane, could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, of course. What is your vision of how the planning board should serve the town? What is it not currently doing that it should be doing? And what is it currently doing that it shouldn't be doing, or which needs to be done better?
Okay. One of the biggest complaints I hear when I'm out and about campaigning is that our children who grew up in this town don't have any places to come back to once they leave it. For example, my 3 daughters, they grew up in the town and they went to school here and They went to college and they became professionals. And they're in their late 20s, early 30s. And they make good money, but they still can't afford to come back to Milton. And I don't think there's enough being done to provide more housing, more affordable housing for them so that they can come back and live where they grew up. That's something I would like to see the planning board tackle over the next number of years, because the population of millennials is growing much faster than the baby boomers. So they're going to be the biggest buyer of houses over the next 20 years. That's what I would like to see. The other thing is what the planning board should have done, but they didn't do, was the ADUs, the additional dwelling units. A couple of years ago, they voted against it, and I was surprised because, again, there is a shortage of housing in town. And this would have provided something for our children to live in, or our neighbors' children to live in, and it wasn't implemented. And then the state took it over and just put it on us. That's my fear, that something like this will happen with the MBTA communities as well. That if we don't do something soon, we'll have something put on us that we won't like.
Thank you very much. Next, that question will be answered by Mr. Munger. Ms. Jane, would you mind repeating the question?
Of course. What is your vision of how the planning board should serve the town? What is it not currently doing that it should be doing? And what is it currently doing that it should not be doing, or which needs to be done better?
I think that for a very long time, the planning board in Milton have said no to everything. And as Mr. Cohane referenced, it's getting us into a spot where I'm fearful that we're going to lose local control over what we have to say here in Milton and what gets built. The AG laid that out in her response to the lawsuit, basically stating that because of our noncompliance, that there's a real possibility that they will appoint a special master. I think that the planning board needs to start to create a vision for the future of Milton rather than always looking to the past and being reactive to things when they come up. I think that there's a real possibility for us to have a say in the future, and that's the thing that's truly lacking with the current planning board.
Thank you. Next, moving on to our last candidate for this question, Ms. Oldfield. Ms. Jane, would you be able to repeat the question one last time?
Of course. What is your vision of how the planning board should serve the town? What is it not doing, and what is it currently doing that it should not be doing, or that could be done better?
So the role of the planning board is to help Milton residents live in a safe and healthy community. And the biggest asset that we as residents have is our home. And when we buy into a neighborhood, we buy in with the expectation that that neighborhood is going to remain somewhat stable. I believe that the planning board does a spectacular job listening to the residents. We are the voice of the neighborhood. We have businesses and applicants come before the planning board with proposals to change the neighborhood. And it is really daunting as a neighbor and as a resident of the town to come to the table. And it's the responsibility of the planning board to listen to those neighbors, listen to their concerns, which usually a lot has to do with traffic, has to do with the removal of trees, and it's really changing the look and the feel of the neighborhood. One of my personal goals that I have yet to accomplish, just because we have been preoccupied with other issues, is to work with other departments, especially, as we've heard, the Housing Authority. I would love to be able to create some more additional units for the town.
Thank you, Ms. Oldfield. The next question will be from Ms. Mulhall and will be asked first to Mr. Cohane.
Mr. Cohane, how would you, as a planning board member, act to boost the vitality of the town's small businesses and commercial areas, including those in East Milton Square?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes. How would you, as a planning board member, act to boost the vitality of the town's small businesses and commercial areas, including those in East Milton Square?
Okay. I think first and foremost, a lot of businesses are struggling nowadays because of a lack of parking, particularly in East Milton Square. It's gridlock over there day and night. We all know that. Not to mention there's a huge development going up there as well that is taking away from a lot of the businesses over there. I think when businesses move into town, years ago when I was on the Board of Selectmen, the number one complaint was it took too long to get permits to open up. Or if there was a simple renovation, it took too long to get the permits. Today, we don't have an inspectional services. We don't have a building commissioner. There's over 120 applications that are sitting on a desk in inspectional services today that haven't even been looked at yet. And many of them are from businesses that want to renovate, they want to expand, and are not getting approved. I think that's a huge problem that we need to tackle immediately by getting a new building commissioner, supporting our businesses because they do pay more taxes than we pay in the residential sector, albeit we don't have a lot of businesses, but they're still there and they're vital to the community. So parking and permitting is what I would go for.
Thank you, Mr. Cohane. Next, Mr. Munger.
So I live in East Milton. I'm very fortunate to be able to have all those amenities right down the street. I'm able to go get coffee, I'm able to go to restaurants. And that's a very great asset that the town has. And I'm very proud of my neighbors that worked with the planning board and with others to create the overlay district that is going to be coming up for vote at the town meeting coming up this very soon. And I think that's a way that the planning board should be working. They should be collaborating with the neighbors and listening to them, and also taking into account small businesses and those that are already invested in Milton and want to be invested in Milton, and finding ways to collaborate with them to create the best outcome for the town. I am, like I said, I am fortunate. My wife and I are fortunate to have those amenities near us. But not all those in town have those amenities. You go over to the other side of town on the West Milton, they don't have the ability to walk down the street and to be able to go to the things that of all ages, young parents, senior citizens want to be able to have. And as a result, they go out of Milton, they go to Hyde Park, they go to Boston, they come across East Milton to go to those types of amenities, and that just adds traffic to the streets. I know that traffic is a very big concern in East Milton, where I'm from, as well as other parts of town, and I think that if we were to advocate and to promote zoning that would allow for mixed use and commercial in other parts of town, everyone would benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Munger. Next up, Ms. Oldfield.
No, I'm good. Okay. Thanks. So as I mentioned, I am a small business owner in Milton, and I did grow up in Milton. And East Milton Square was full of vitality. Growing up, there was a bowling alley, there was a movie theater, there was a Five and Dime. There was plenty of things for us to do. Unfortunately, through the years, small businesses have suffered because of the big box stores have taken over. And it is a challenge operating a business, especially like my business. We're outside of the commercial district, so we only have 3 commercial districts in town. We have East Milton Square, Milton Village, and Central Ave. Every other business operates outside of the business district, and we operate with a special permit. And even though my business has been around for 60 years, I do have to apply for a special permit every 3 to 5 years. And that is a challenge. In fact, I just had to get a permit this past February, and I do have a neighbor who is challenging that permit, and it is going to court. And I am relying on the select board to advocate and support and encourage my business to be able to remain in town. I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and our Chamber of Commerce needs to be a little bit more vital and work with businesses not just in East Milton, but also in other areas of town.
Thank you, Ms. Oldfield. Last but not least, Mr. Fahey.
Thank you. I'm actually quite proud of the fact that the Planning Board has recently completed the East Milton overlay zoning. We've spent nearly 18 months working on this. It's been a complicated process. We engaged the community of East Milton to make sure that the residents' interests and concerns were served. And very shortly, we will have something that will be in place, which serves the interest of the business community. It's an intention of that zoning is to make sure that we provide an opportunity for more business to be integrated into East Milton. We do have 3 different and distinct business areas in town. We have Milton Village, which has a overlay zoning which was completed several years ago, and we also have Central Ave as a district. They're all a little bit different, and some of the concerns that we have may be common in all, but some of them may not be. I do think it would be important for us to understand the issues and the concerns of the businesses in each of the districts, and maybe through the Chamber of Commerce, find the pain points that as a town we might be able to address. Not all of those may be addressable by the Planning Board, but if we're going to support the businesses, we should find out what their concerns are, what the issues are, beyond the obvious ones, as have already been mentioned.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fahey. Next up, a question from Miss Miss Mayo. This will be asked first to Mr. Munger.
What alternatives to 40B developments do you support to help the town make significant progress on its mandated affordable housing goals?
What alternatives do I see? Yes, so I think that part of the problem is that we have not allowed for development to occur in Milton for a very long time. We've done spot zoning, we've allowed some development, but the problem is that our zoning has become so restrictive that it does not allow for those who want to invest in Milton to actually be able to build something that's profitable for them. And so what I would suggest is that we, as a planning board and as a town, begin to work collaboratively with other boards, with the select board, but also with those individuals that are currently invested in Milton, that want to stay invested in Milton, and work with them to create the best outcome. I think that the planning board and other leaders in town should lead the town. We should advocate for the best outcome, but we should also work in ways with them so that we don't end up with 40Bs. It's been referenced, the 40B project that's going up in East Milton Square, right near the Fruit Center. There was a chance that we had as a town to have less units and commercial space there. And we squandered it because we fought against the developer, and they came in and they went above and beyond what our current local zoning had and went the 40B route. Same thing's happening over on Brush Hill Road, on Randolph Ave, and on the Blue Hill Parkway. I think we need to begin to say yes to some things and to work collaboratively and constructively to creative solutions so that we can avoid these 40Bs going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Munger. Next up, Miss Oldfield.
Could you repeat the question?
Of course. What alternatives to 40B developments do you support to help the town make significant progress on its mandated affordable housing goals?
So I'm not sure if many people know this, but within the past 5 years and moving forward, we have about 789 new units coming in the pipeline. Town-owned asset on the west side of Milton, our own library, and we should have kept that, and we could have used that for our own purposes, and even with the housing authority. So I think there are many opportunities in town that we should take advantage of.
Thank you, Ms. Oldfield. Next up, Mr. Fahey.
As Maggie mentioned a moment ago, we are very close to having the required number of affordable housing units in Milton. The number of our status changes based on permitting of the projects that have been proposed. So there's a categorization that's called safe harbor, and as the time frame from when a project is proposed to when it's permitted, it will differentiate whether you're in safe harbor or not. There are not a lot of alternatives to the 40B projects, because at this point, the number of projects that have been proposed will fulfill our obligation until we have more residential units in town. So one matter that's very, very important within the MBTA Communities Act is that we increase the percentage of any zoned units that we have within our MBTA communities zoning greater than 10%. The MBTA Communities Act is largely market rate housing. It is not going to provide a substantial number of affordable units. That's probably not well understood throughout the town. Only developments that are 10 units or greater would have an affordable housing unit in it. So anything that's under 10 would not. So it's of high importance that within the MBTA community zoning that we do create, we work to move to 15% if we can, and that requires the state approval to do so. So that's one area where we can increase.
Thank you, Mr. Fahey. Next up, Mr. Cohane.
Can you read it again, please?
Of course. What alternatives to 40B developments do you support to help the town make significant progress on its mandated affordable housing goals?
I'm going to echo what Sean said. I don't think there's many alternatives to the 40B when it comes to affordable housing, because we're getting 25% of what they build deemed towards the affordable number. And yes, we are close to the 10% mark in town at the moment. That happened by mistake. I mean, we're getting 9 40Bs all at once. I mean, it should never have happened. It should have happened over time. 9 of them coming in with hundreds and hundreds of units at once is not good for the schools. It's not good for the police and fire. But it's happened, and we have to deal with it now. The other thing I can come up with as a real estate developer is, if you get developers in Milton buying up land and they want to put in 20 or 30 or 40 houses, it takes years to get it approved. Literally years and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So many of them walk away. I would like to see the affordable percentage increased to what they have in Boston right now is 20%. And when we were building for years, it was 10%. Now it's 20% of everything you build is affordable. I'd like to see that number in Milton, and in return, ease the restrictions on developers so that they can produce housing faster and with less restrictions and more affordability.
Thank you, Mr. Cohane. The next question will be from Ms. Carroll and will be asked first to Ms. Oldfield.
What is the best path forward for the town in regards to the MBTA Communities Act and compliance at this point?
So the best path forward right now is to allow our state representatives negotiate with the housing and livable communities. We are making progress. Everyone has sort of agreed that we have been misclassified because of our trolley situation. Even just recently, over the weekend, the top House Democrat from Quincy, Ron Mariano, agreed with that. And that was sort of refreshing to hear. We are hopeful that we will be able to work with the state, and we will be able to come up with a plan that works for Milton. As you know, the MBTA Act was deemed to be an unfunded mandate, and so many towns have filed to Superior Court for a determination, and I think perhaps the town of Milton could do that as well. And then that would give us the opportunity to come to the table. They recently, Middleborough did the same thing, and they have now successfully negotiated with the state on a plan that works for the town of Middleborough. So I'd like the same thing to happen with the town of Milton.
Thank you, Ms. Oldfield. And next up, Mr. Fahey.
Thursday evening at the Council on Aging, we will have, the Planning Board will have a presentation of the zoning alternatives that have been prepared. That's for the public. I hope it's well attended. We'll have our consultant, Util, with us, and it'll be an opportunity for the residents of the town to see the different alternatives that we have prepared. I believe that the best solution to this requirement is a compromise with the state. I think my opinion is probably pretty well understood that 2,461 units would be very difficult for the town and detrimental for the town to zone that, and that would be the zoning that's required being 25% in the classification of a rapid transit community. We are definitively a commuter rail station community because we are within a half mile of the 3 commuter rail stations. We have prepared a zoning plan which would comply with that, and that in fact is the statute, which is the law. There is no debate over that. There's plenty of debate over the guidelines that have been promulgated, but there is no debate over the statute. We would have to comply with that. So I believe that the best solution is to present to the town, develop something that we feel we can negotiate with the state and find a middle ground.
Thank you, Mr. Fahey. Next up, Mr. Cohane.
Can you read the question again, please?
Oh, sure. What is the best path forward for the town in regards to the MBTA Communities Act compliance at this point?
Thank you. I think the best path forward is the one that they're looking for, and that is the 25% that should be put forward to the state for approval immediately and then negotiate. Because I know Maggie mentioned about Mariano, but in this, he was asked if he would encourage, if the House would consider carving Milton out of the MBTA Communities Act, and his single word answer was no. They're not going to budge. We can come up with all of the plans that we'd like, and I don't think they're going to take any one of them except the 25%. I'm a pragmatic guy. I've been through the mill with zoning boards and state house politicians for 35 years. They don't budge, and these guys are not going to budge, in my opinion. So I think we're better off. We're going to save a lot of money. We're going to create some housing. There's 2,461 houses, but realistically, we all know a tenth of that isn't going to be built over the next 100 years. We'll never see it. I think we should get it in, negotiate it down, and then move forward and get our grant money back and stop all these legal fees that we're paying.
Thank you, Mr. Cohane. And finally, Mr. Munger.
I agree that we need to comply with the law. I think that the town of Milton should come into compliance with the 25% requirement. Just today, the final regulations came out and stated that we are in fact a rapid transit community. So any sort of illusion that we're going to be able to convince the state that we're not, I think it's my opinion that ship has sailed. I do think that the town should work with the state to compromise to create the best outcome for our town. I am in agreement with that. But why would the state want to work with us when we've shown no good faith effort and have pushed back on them at every turn we possibly could? I think it's time that we start to work with the state to create the best outcome, because we all agree that there is a housing shortage in Milton and in the state. I think that by providing more housing, a diverse housing stock, so that seniors can age in place, so that young families can move into Milton and be able to afford to live here, for the firefighters, the police officers, the DPW workers to have the opportunity to live in Milton. That's what we should be fighting for. That's what we should be striving for. And the way to do that is by complying with the law, with the MBTA's Communities Act.
Thank you very much, Mr. Munger. The final question will be from Miss Jane and will be asked first to Mr. Fahey.
What professional skills or experience would you bring to the board?
I've spent almost 40 years of my career in construction management. For the last 16 years, I have been the president of the company that I work for, Construction Management and Builders. I deal with complex and challenging issues on a consistent basis. And as a result of the career experience that I've had, I am positioned with that experience to address complex and difficult issues within the town. I think also in terms of my experience and my approach, I take a professional, respectful approach to every issue that we have, no matter what it is. And I believe that my discipline in terms of how I deal with matters is beneficial to my performance on the board. And I utilize my professional experience every moment in my work with the planning board, and I'd be committed to doing that again if I'm elected for another 3 years.
Thank you, Mr. Fahey. Up next, Mr. Cohane.
My commitment is to not only myself and my family, but to all of you and your children and our grandchildren, our future generations. There's no housing available in Milton currently. We have 9,800 homes. We have about 42 homes on the market. What I've done for the last 35 years is built hundreds and hundreds of homes, condominiums, multifamilies, commercial. I have a lot of experience, and this is all self-made. Nothing was handed to me over the years. It's self-made, sitting in front of zoning boards and planning boards all over the Commonwealth, negotiating with them, and then building in their communities, and usually everybody's happy. That's what I want to bring that to the other side of the table in Milton. I don't build in Milton. I have never built in Milton, and I have no intention of building here. This is my home. This is where I live. This is where my children were born and raised. I want to create a future for them. I want to create a future for their children. I think the experience I have is missing on the board today, and I'll be glad if I'm elected. I think it'll be worthwhile.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cohane. Up next, Mr. Munger.
As stated in my opening statement, I am an architect for almost 20 years, and I work at a large firm in the city. In my time, professionally, I've had the great opportunities to work on a wide range of projects, from historic preservation along Newbury Street, where we revived and rehabilitated 2 brownstones, slate roofs and copper gutters, all the way through master planning in the Allston Brighton neighborhood with the New Balance headquarters and the Boston Celtics practice facility and the Boston Bruins. And in each of those situations where the developer or the owner would go with the architect into communities, in the neighborhoods, and engage with them, we would hear the same concerns that we have here in Milton. It's traffic, it's parking, it's how is this going to affect me on a daily basis? And what I found is the best way to achieve the outcome for the neighborhood, for Milton, is to work collaboratively, creatively, and to find solutions that are challenging and difficult. And I'll give you an example. My firm just recently completed, and I worked on for a number of years, a project over the Mass Pike at Boylston and Mass Ave. The first iteration of that project was very large and bulky, and it took up the whole street front. We met with the neighbors. They pushed back and they said, this is too much. So we went back to the drawing board and came back with a creative solution where we are now providing over half an acre of open space that's activated for that community, for that neighborhood, and that's a better result for all because we were collaborative and we were creative.
Thank you, Mr. Munger. And finally, Ms. Oldfield.
So the skills I bring are different than my fellow candidates here. I bring a softer skill set. I listen. I am creative. I'm a thinker, and I ask a lot of questions. I am very lucky that I'm in a position to be in every neighborhood, practically on every street, every single year. My business offers walk-in retail services as well as landscaping services. And when you are selling and planning a landscape, you're planning for the future. Planting a tree in a certain place will have long-term ramifications. I care about this town, and I really, truly want to make this a town that you guys would want to come back to and live in. And I just want to give back to the town that has given me and my family so much.
Thank you. That concludes our Planning Board Forum. We will now hear closing statements from the candidates chosen at random. The order, and I will repeat this as we go on, will be Mr. Cohane, followed by Ms. Oldfield, followed by Mr. Munger, followed by Mr. Fahey. Mr. Cohane, your time is up.
Thank you. 31 of my 36 years in America has been in this great town, Milton. I've dedicated much of my adult life to Milton, from raising our children here, being a coach, to these all-girls teams, donating my time as a select board member, a school committee member, and an advisor to the hospital, a town meeting member. I feel if there was ever a board that I was qualified to be on, it's the planning board. And it's because of my experience in the real estate development and construction industry since I arrived here. It is more than adequate to be a good, possibly a great member of this board. I'm a pragmatic person, very sensible. I take my time. I don't rush into decisions. I think that's what we need on this board. I'll also bring respect and dignity back to the board. And I don't mean to insult anybody, but I think it's lacking at the moment. I intend to be a voice of reason, sound discussions in a timely manner. I intend moving along these projects that come in front of us in a timely manner, because I know what it costs for real estate developers. I'm sorry, my time is up. Yeah.
No worries.
Anyway,
thank you very
that's
much, Mr. Cohane. Up next, Ms. Oldfield.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to my fellow candidates. It is challenging to put our names out there, so I appreciate the respect given by all of us to each of us. In my experience, disagreements of policies don't have to be disrespectful, and reasonable people can find solutions. I understand change is inevitable, and I'd like the opportunity to be part of the growth of Milton by ensuring that it's done carefully. Amid change, I provide stability. Change is not always bad. We should always be learning and improving, but change should be made in a manner that makes sense for Milton. Because I've sat on the planning board table as both a member and a business, I understand the importance of patience and respect. Owning my own business has given me the ability to make tough decisions, and because these decisions not only affect my family, but also those of my employees, I am thoughtful and I look at the overall impact they may have. My approach these past 3 years on the planning board has been the same. Consistent leadership and values create a stable environment that allows residents to build their lives and pursue their goals with confidence. When residents leave their homes in the morning, they expect their neighborhood will be the same when they return at the end of the day. I'm aware of the impacts of my decisions today on the neighborhoods tomorrow, and I don't take that responsibility lightly.
Thank you, Ms. Oldfield. Up next, Mr. Munger.
Thank you to the Milton High School debate team, to the Milton Times, and to the Milton Access TV for hosting this event. On April 29th, we have a chance to move beyond the divisiveness we've experienced recently in town. We have an opportunity to elect proactive leaders that will allow Milton to evolve and that will create a vision for the future. If you want to be heard, to have a voice, to actually bring balance to the planning board, I am the right person. As an architect, I may look at Milton a little differently than others. I cherish the charm and the character of this town. It's why we moved here, and it's East Milton specifically, with the beautiful homes around Crane Field. I am afraid for our town that by continuing to say no to everything, that we are going to destroy the very fabric which we are trying to save. I am running because I want to help preserve the character of Milton, and I believe strongly that the only way to do so is by planning, and planning requires action. I humbly ask for your vote on April 29th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Munger. And finally, Mr. Fahey.
My name is Sean Fahey, and I am a candidate for re-election to the Planning Board. I will not criticize the candidates for Planning Board positions that I'm running against. Having served for almost 3 years, I've demonstrated my approach to serving in the role of Planning Board member. If re-elected, I will continue to serve in the same manner. My professional experience has provided me with challenging and complex problems that have required thoughtful and careful decision-making. I have the experience to perform the role. We have significant challenges as Milton evolves. I am an advocate for responsible planning. I am an advocate for transparency. I care about the current Milton, and I care about the future Milton. I am committed to factoring cost implications into decision-making as necessary. I believe successful solutions are based on very strong communication, committed cooperation, and responsible compromise. I humbly ask for your vote on Tuesday, 4/29.
Thank you very much. And that concludes our evening. Thank you to all the candidates for participating in tonight's forum. I'd like to remind everyone that the annual town election is scheduled for April 29th. Tune in to Comcast Channel 8 on Tuesday, April 29th at 8 p.m. for live election results. Thank you again to all the candidates for participating tonight, and thank you to the viewers at home for watching. Have a pleasant evening. Thank you.